All right, how's it going, everybody? Thank you for coming back to my channel. Um, I hope everyone is doing well, and yeah, I need a haircut. Now, I feel like taking into account what my channel is supposed to be, it's supposed to be about fictional storytelling, world building, hence worlds within worlds, um, deeper lore, and what it's like to be a creator or a writer, or what it's like to be an audience taking in certain creativities and writings that just expound on typical literature and expand it into, fantastic epic fantasies. Um, Taking that in account into how I focused a lot of it on Mortal Kombat, I switched over to Mortal Kombat because it is something that I truly love. So if I'm gonna dive into anything right now, starting my channel off, it's gonna be Mortal Kombat. I love Mortal Kombat. I think it has a fantastic lore and more to come. So it's been something I've loved breaking down on my channel. However, I do feel like I'm starting to branch away as I got caught up in all the reveals. I'm starting to branch away from the idea of exploring the lore and just kind of getting to a more just super fan, loving everything thrown at me. So we're going to continue to talk about Mortal Kombat, but we're going to reel it back to specifically talking about lore in a fun way today. Now, we're going to go over all the maps that have been revealed. From maps or stages, to even just background scenes that were within the CGI trailer, the first one. Anything that hints to a map that might be playable or a story element. We're gonna go over it, break it down, and see what cool little tidbits we can find in it that will give us an idea of the lore. So, starting off with again the CGI trailer, the very first one that was revealed, where we all went crazy as Liu Kang told us to, he welcomed us to his new era, and we get Raiden inside his cabin, and the camera pans out from Raiden as he goes outside to this huge, beautiful landscape. Now, from what we understand with the bios, this is the land that I believe Raiden and Kung Lao will belong to. They said they belong to a small village where they do a lot of hard labor. I'm assuming farming and working the lands, probably dealing with cattle and sheep, etc. And hey, this is just a beautiful landscape. I believe that we might have something that's playable here, but I believe this is mainly to show us more what it's like for where they come from. You can say all day long. I guess I didn't word that sentence correctly. It's going to give us a good idea of where they come from and what type of life they had before this grand adventure. So, if we're looking at this land, we get a lot of idea that he came from more of a rural kind of area. He didn't have a lot of technology, simple life, traditional life. um Not someone that relies again on technology, but relies on his own skill and hard work. So he's going to be someone that's probably fit, as we've seen, someone who's well disciplined, because when you're living like that, you got to be disciplined. You have to remember to go take care of all those animals, to take care of all those vegetables and crops, or you won't be eating your cattle, your sheep, and everything will die. So it gives a good idea as to, okay, this is the type of men that Kung Lao and Raiden are, and this gives us an idea as to the lifestyle. With the lifestyle that they came from, gives us an idea as to their characteristics. I would love for this to be, an idea of how conquest mode is going to be, if we have conquest mode, where we can literally run around through these fields and explore the land. Even if it's not a part of conquest, even if this is just a scene within the game, it would be really cool to see all these, like, if certain areas aren't actual playable or they're not conquest, you can run through them. Even if them just expanding on the scene or adding so much detail that they have is expanding on the lore and the idea of these characters. In the previous games, we'll get like little small areas and that's it. And we would only assume the rest of how it looks, when trying to tie into the grander story and everything else. But this gives us a great idea. Oh, this man grew in the mountains. He had to do a lot of walking and hiking, and if he had wanted to get anywhere out of this area, I'm sure he had to pass through mountains and everything else. He has survival skills. He has stability. Once again, it just does a lot. So I really appreciate the detail they added, even if again, we don't get to play through these maps. Now, the next map. It is, I think it's the tea house. I'm calling it the tea house. The cafe, the tea house, or whatever, where we see Scorpion and Sub-Zero approach each other getting ready to fight. And we see the lanterns hanging from pillar to pillar. And I believe we've already seen this map, a close-up version of this map, which I'll go over later. But this map might be 2-in-1. It would be cool to actually be able to play inside the tea house, because I think the other map we've seen is like the outside kind of marketplace right before you get into the diner area, and this is within the diner area. Again, could just be for the CGI trailer, but obviously this is going to be a big place of commerce. A lot of people are going to come. It's probably close to the actual market area where Baraka would have been before he got the Tarkart disease, because remember, he was a marketman himself, selling, I'm assuming, fruits or whatever the sort. Maybe it was game. But yeah. And now we have the actual tea house. Well, like I said, I believe that was the tea house too. But in this picture, it's for sure our first look as to the playable game version of the tea house. And it's really cool. Clearly, okay, I was wrong. It's not the outside marketplace where you're fighting. I think it's just like it's a huge building, kind of maybe like a U, and in one area you have the diner, and then you come out, and then this long kind of hallway is where you're fighting, and then this other area you have the diner. Now the next picture we can go over is Johnny Cage's mansion, or his house. This is cool because it shows that luxurious lifestyle Johnny Cage has. So in the previous games, we had an idea that he had money and that he was a nice actor. You know, this shows us he had to, at least at one point, been top notch, because he has money. My guy has he has a pool within his house, and right next to a fireplace, right next to, or that's surrounded by a lot of trophies and medals and things that are ancient artifacts, hence Sento being there. He has a huge, grand view from his pool where he can see the whole land and everything outside. And it looks like from the other houses that his house sits on a cliffside. My guy has money. He has really good money. He has pretty nice taste too. So this gives us an idea that Johnny Cage ain't just, or a typical Hollywood star. Like, he's the Hollywood star. He's rich as hell. He's, I guess, on the same level as Tom Cruise probably, does his all own stunts. On the level of Ryan Reynolds or Samuel Jackson, just has money for days. Now, according to the bio, he's trying to learn ways to make himself relevant again. So maybe this fame doesn't last too long, but he's still sitting on a lot of money, and he probably doesn't even need more money. He merely just misses the clout. Maybe that's it. Now, this next map is probably going to be my favorite map. It's a lot of red in it, a lot of dragons, a lot of like temple-esque kind of attire to it. This reminds me of a little bit of the Shiraryu Garden from Mortal Kombat 11. Yes, mainly because all the red. We see red trees on the top left. We have the dragons cutting through the middle. We have dragons wrapped around the poles, the pillars, and a lot of rope towards the top that also looks like dragon, coiled up dragon. I believe this could be Shang Tsung's new island, kind of, or his lair, because who else do we know had dragons wrapped around poles, and a lot of, I believe that's the Chinese dragon, throughout his land. Shang Tsung, throughout Mortal Kombat 9, 10, 11, even the old Mortal Kombat, he always had the dragons spiraled up. They were green, things like that. These are red, or actually these are more kind of a concrete color mixed with a little red hint to it. But yeah, I believe this might be an area or a place where Shang Tsung dwells, or at least a temple of his or something of that nature. Also, there's shots where when people are doing their fatalities or their I guess fatal blows, you see the ground itself. Now I know this is kind of reaching, but just to add to that layer, when you see the ground itself, the stonework on the ground is the exact same type of stonework that's in the crypt from Mortal Kombat 11, and you're going through where? Shang Tsung's island. So even though, yes, that's the typical stonework that was seen in a lot of places, it's starting to add up. A lot of the shrines and temple kind of layers throughout. The dragons, the same dragons that Shang Tsung was always affiliated with, which I know is also a common Chinese dragon. So it could be multiple types of people, you know. But yeah, I believe this might be our first kind of idea as to Shang Tsung's area. Now, my next probably favorite place to be is the Shaolin Monks area. And here we have a throwback to, yeah, I don't remember if it was Armageddon or Deception, but one of those had a huge stage where you're in the circle of the stage, and these huge statues are holding up the area, and they recreated it here. And you look in the background, you see that green arc door. I might be wrong with this, but I'm pretty sure it's the same arch that we see at the end of Mortal Kombat 11 when we're seeing a glimpse of Liu Kang's new era as he's going back in time to get the Great Kung Lao. The camera kind of pans through, if I'm correct, this kind of green arched gateway before it shows the Shaolin monks that are practicing. So this looks like another side of the Shaolin village, and it looks really nice. You have great attention with detail with the plants, the trees. I love the layers. You know, they talked about that in the last combat cast, that they don't just make it from left to right. They make kind of a whole square image so that when they turn the camera, you have all those layers and have depth to your maps, or to your stages, I should say. And it's really unique. It's really awesome. I wonder who these statues are. I wonder if we'll get mentioned as to who these three great men are who are holding up the ring that people fight in. I'm assuming they must be, like I said, great men, because they're depicted as having the strength to hold up the main arena. Maybe it was shown in a previous game. I'm not sure. So, but yeah, hopefully in this game we'll get mention of who these men are. As you also see that they're surrounded by huge mountains, icy cap type mountains. You know, the ones at the beginning were filled with grass and trees. These look like they're filled with ice. Again, that gives more detail and layers to where these people come from. You know, their living conditions. It seems to be probably cold in that area. Although I will say about the plants that grow there, maybe it's nice and warm in certain areas or locations. I'm not sure. And their architect speaks a lot on their traditions, as well as how modern or traditional they are. Now, we get our first look at what I thought was Adania, but now we're learning it's just Outworld. I guess they kind of mixed Adania and Outworld, or maybe parts of the timeline are still the same, where Adania and Outworld have already merged, but instead of it looking like a wasteland, it's more of a flourished kind of land, like the Adenia side took over more in a good way. Because we have all the beautiful royals, and maybe Adenia has nothing to do with this game, I don't know. But we have all the beautiful, royal garments hanging. I say garments, but royal cloth hanging throughout. We have the nice plants throughout everything, making everything feel alive and flourished. We have different little statues, and it looks like almost like a violin or some sort of musical instrument, which speaks on, this is a place of culture. They have art here. You have several chairs where probably people sit and watch, with the musical instruments and the chairs. There's probably an audience of some sort who watches maybe artists perform. This is the same map where we're going to see later, I'll go over later, where we're going to see Sindel sitting on her throne to the far left. If I'm correct, this is the same map. And I think outside of that doorway is where we see, well, for one, we see one Umgadi to the right. It's a black woman right there that could be Tanya. But there were several black women Umgadi, so I'm not sure. But outside of that, I think is the area that we see Tanya and Li Mei talking, right outside of that area, I believe. Because you see this little fixture back here, this building. If you look outside of the doorway, to the top left of the doorway, you see what looks like almost a gazebo. And I think we see that same gazebo-like area inside the Tanya and Li Mei trailer. Now we get the living forest. And I love this living forest. So it's not just trees that are ready to eat you. Although I don't know, maybe they still do. But it's really cool to have these green lights throughout their eyes, which I think is a hint as to there's souls living in them. Throughout Mortal Kombat, we've always seen souls as depicted as green, and soul magic tied in with that green color and aura. So this beautiful, man, beautiful stage. It's probably gonna be my second favorite stage. Beautiful stage with these trees. The trees have 2 or 3 faces on them from what we can see. Maybe there's 4 if there's a face on each side. But yeah, I do think that these trees have souls trapped in them. Maybe the people who belong to this land, when they die, they become part of the land. So their face or their souls attach with the trees. And it looks like there's trees for endless and endless miles if you look down the center of this stage. So literally everyone who've ever lived here and died here could have their body somewhere trapped into these souls. That's gonna be very important later when we get dealing with characters like Quan Chi and Ermac, who could snatch these souls out and do with them what they will. And actually, we're gonna get into that later. Now, this one is it almost looks like the tea house, but it's not. I believe it's a docking area. You see the water in the background, you see all the boats. It might be near the tea house with the same lanterns, but there's a parade going on, but there's also a boat that's completely on fire. Now, maybe it's just people got really excited and lost control, or more than likely there's an attack going on. And this is during the parade, during some sort of celebration. We also, when we get to the reptile trailer, we see the actual scene where this parade is going on. We see Melina and Katana there, and they're kind of like dancing, filling the area, and then Reptile comes down and is like trying to warn them of something. Maybe it's of an attack that's about to happen to them. We also, people have broken down that we see Quan Chi is there, or that they've taken Quan Chi, during this parade. So maybe he was the one that was going to attack them and some of his men. We don't know yet. I personally don't think that that's the Quan Chi. I think that's one of Quan Chi's like henchmen or something like that, and they just have one of them, and that's why we see the markings on the body. And it's probably going to be revealed to not actually be Quan Chi, but someone who just marks his body similar to him, like Joker and his henchmen. Now, we move on to the Lin Kuei trailer, and we see this beautiful fortress. Not sure whose fortress this is. I'm going to assume that is General Shao's, because the voice that we hear later in this trailer sounds like General Shao's, but we're not sure. We see a map that correlates with it, because we kind of see the same cloudy, smoky area with all the ice. They're high in the mountains where it's freezing cold. Whoever works here, there's some tough men. They live in the freezing cold and probably don't care. And it's not the Lin Kuei, who you would think, because, Sub-Zero and stuff like that. But no, they're scaling this fortress to attack it, so they don't live here. And this is a military fort because of all the weapons we see lying everywhere. If it wasn't, it was a castle that someone took down. But if you look to the right, where you see these little, will almost look like little houses, these remind me of like outlooks or safe houses, where you will have a post of maybe a few guards there who watch over this huge grand area because it's high up. And it's not necessarily high up because of the ice. I think it's high up so that they could see everything below them, and therefore be able to alert someone else or attack accordingly. We'll see this map pop up a few times in different ways, and I'm not sure if it's because there's multiple areas of that map that we're going to fight in, or of that location that we're going to fight in, or if it was just the settings, the day, the night, Now, next, we see what's a treasury, essentially. There's gold everywhere, so it's a treasury. And there's some really interesting details. We see the red flags in the background that kind of, or they're red banners that's kind of drooping down. They do remind me of Shao Kahn's flags in Mortal Kombat 11 and 9. Maybe it's Shao Kahn's. It could be anyone. We know that Sindel's colors are purple, as we saw in the Royal Palace. These are red, so we're not sure if they belong to Shokin, if they belong to General Shao, or who. But there's already been people that have pointed out, like I believe Dynasty pointed this out. If you look to the right of this picture, you actually see what looks like, well, it's legs. It's sitting on a throne, its legs and its hands. And when you watch the gameplay, and the camera cuts to different angles for the fighting, which I love, by the way, you see that it's broken. So it's an old statue. You can't see the top half because there's nothing there. It's just legs and hands resting on the legs. like there was someone of high stature who was sitting there and ruling. Maybe it reminds me a lot of the Goro statue in the crypt. I don't believe it's a Goro or a Shokin. I feel like we would see four hands, like a more obvious. Um, I feel like the artist, if they was making a Shokin statue, would have four hands resting or four arms and maybe the rest broken off, but you would want to have a way to know that it was a Shokin. Maybe it's General Shao or General Shao's father. I'm assuming General Shao probably comes from a lineage. Maybe that's why he has so much respect from other people, and maybe his father had great honor and used to rule. Or maybe it's King Jared. We don't know much about King Jared. I'm assuming if Sindel's supposed to be this bad A like she always is, that King Jared was a bad A too because he used to be the emperor, the king. So it could be his statue. And since this is time way after he's died, the statue's broken, thrown in the treasury, to be forgotten about because he's no longer here. Maybe the red was his colors. And Sindel just kind of keeps all this stuff here because she don't like going over it. Now, think about it, it makes sense because I know it has to belong to something of our world for sure. Simply because in this scene is when Rain is talking. He's like, oh, Liu Kang sent you here to learn of our secrets. And we know Rain works under Sindel and General Shao. We know this from the bio. We also know this from, there's a scene later where we see Melina and Tanya and Rain and everybody eating together. And they're still within the Outworld Palace or that kind of area because you see Umgadi guards everywhere. That or they're going on a long hiking camping trip and Umgadi decided to follow. Up next, we get a beautiful landscape of what I believe is also the dock. We see a huge palace in the background. We see the same boat that I think is going to be on fire later in this beautiful statue that they're working on for the parade. We see kites flying around, so maybe they're getting prepared for the parade, or it's already going this celebration. I'm saying parade, but whatever celebration is going to be there. Maybe it's starting now and it's going to pick up later. Um, if you look in this beautiful, beautiful skyline, you see two planets or two moons. This is really cool. This is what I love about what they're doing. So this gives us an idea that this realm, and I'm wondering if each realm is on a different dimension or if it's just a different planet. And maybe these other planets are the other realms that we see. Like Earth realm could be in the far distance, and then, chaos or order realm and outworld and all that type of thing. Um, or each realm, each dimension has its own planetary system, its own galaxy, and everything else. That would be really cool as well. But I love being able to see it. One is orangish red, and then the next one is blue with a lot of clouds. So it's either a really icy area with water, or it's just a fully watered down planet with nothing but clouds. We'll cut back to a palace, or the palace area, where we see the purple dropping, or the purple layer down the stairs. We see the full Umgadi lineup. I say full, but probably the best of the best. We see Katana and Melina looking bad, and I say bad, in a good way, if you know what I mean. And we see these awesome shields that they have, which I really love the designs for their shields. You can see the place where their spears go. They're going to be the front linemen or front line women, if you will, who are going to be able to stab while keeping up their shield. And this is just a really cool scene. We see purple, pinkish purple flowers everywhere. This is definitely Sindel's color scheme all over the place. And I think this is where they probably welcome the royalty to come down or welcome other newcomers. This is maybe where the royalty wait for other ambassadors or other kings and queens from other lands to come to them and speak. We also see a bridge or the main walkway where Liu Kang and Li Mei are going to be traveling in that chariot before it arrives, and then they have to fight off people. And then with the leak scene, we see Mataro and Reiko come to. I believe that this is a main road that leads to the main palace. Just like it's probably the same road that we saw in the very first trailer that Katana and Melina were in the chariot on before they got out and they looked at the portal opening. And yeah, I believe that this is going to be kind of, like I said, that main road. Maybe a lot of merchants are here. Maybe a lot of people come to talk and give their blessings to royalty or give their requests. We cut again back to that palace area where you see again the Umgadi are standing center. You see what looks like a gazebo in that left or the right side of this doorway. Another little nice arc with beautiful plants hovering all over it. You see a close up on these musical instruments, and there's actually two. One that looks like a long bass guitar almost, and the other one like a small little violin. Don't know much about musical instruments, so if y'all actually know what they are, please enlighten me. And then in this scene, we see what I was referring to earlier. You see the throne itself, or one of the thrones. I believe this is the throne. We have clearly Sindel's chair in the middle, and probably the chair that's on the right. There's probably another chair that's on the left that's just like it for Melina and Katana. And the stairs are again layered with a purple, almost dark blue color carpet on them. The chairs themselves are purple. Sindel couldn't get much more purpler. Like, there's purple schemes throughout all of her things, and if you look at it, this purple is almost like, I keep saying, a mixture of pink and almost like a bluish. And her daughters are pink and blue. Katana and Melina wear pink and blue color schemes. The Mgadi wear yellow, which I think is a great accent to purple. And you see a lot of yellow throughout this, like gold. So maybe Sindel's colors are purple and gold. I'm willing to bet when we get her reveal, she will have purple and gold throughout her color scheme. Now, we get what I'm thinking is going to be Sindel's garden. I haven't seen really anybody talk about this. To be honest, when I was looking at all the pictures that's been revealed, that's when I came across this, and I was like, oh, I don't think I've heard anyone talk about this. So on the far left, we see another kind of arc that looks very similar to the other arches that we've seen throughout the other palaces, Outworld / Edenian palaces. We see this beautiful tree that has purplish white leaves drooping down from it, and we see these crazy looking alien almost plants that I would assume would be in a place like Edenia. I started a Mortal Kombat campaign, tabletop role-playing game campaign with friends, and this is how I explained how Edenia would look, with a lot of foreign beautiful plants, because Edenia was always supposed to be this magical place that's kind of similar to how Earthrealm would look, with the greenery, but just times 10 with all the magical elements to it. And sure enough, while we're looking at Li Mei and Tanya fight, you see beautiful plants everywhere. These purple, white, and these greenish kind of, or teal colors. They just look really pretty. They look alien at the same time, This is what I would want to see from this realm that's not supposed to be like Earthrealm. It's supposed to be its own thing. We see the same thing with Li Mei. And when Li Mei is up in the air, you see a good glimpse of this palace in the background. I'm thinking that that's the main palace, or it could be one of the main palaces. I do think, again, that this place that they're fighting is going to be right outside of the main throne room. But I think the throne room and the palace where they live, their living quarters, are going to be two different areas. Here's the scene I was talking about with Tanya, Melina, and Rain are all talking. See, they're still in this Edenia / Outworld. You see the same type of plants in the background with the bioluminescent ferns on the right between Rain and Melina, and then the purple flowers between Tanya and Liu Kang's head. It's probably also where you see that purple drink in the middle of the table. It's probably where they get their drink from. Probably just mix it with the plants around them. They seem like they're a race that truly appreciates their planet and the things within their planet. And again, does not rely on technology, but probably relies a lot on magic and, like, quote unquote God level, plants and animals and things of that nature. Now, this is going to be a really interesting map. At first, we just think that this is a scene for the story with Melina laying on the bed and Kenshi is consoling her. But we actually see the same place again in a later stage reveal. And right here we see on the back wall, there's a lot of drawings. And they look like a skeletal system, as if someone was drawing and trying to study other creatures. And this is probably some sort of doctor's house. Now, a lot of people saying, oh, this is Shang Tsung's area. I don't believe so, because Shang Tsung doesn't seem like someone to be trusted. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe some people do trust him. But I would think that this probably isn't his location. This is probably someone else who we haven't seen revealed yet in their kind of house or location. And maybe this is some sort of mad scientist or doctor who they trust, but he or she may have some unorthodox ways about them. They have a lot of potions or elixirs that's on the wall behind Kenshi to the right of him. Here's a close-up shot again of those drawings that we see on the wall. I can't really make them out, but again, they look like kind of skeletal systems and or layouts, if you will. It looks like some maps drawn, and this one in the top right almost reminds me of a chemical chart. Now we get to the Tarkatans, the forgotten people, if you will. They're diseased, they're thrown to the side and thrown into this wasteland where they build their own tribes. Now, I think there's a lot of history here. I don't believe they've just been down here making all this, because we see tents and things of that nature. That's clearly where they're living, in the tents and things. I think that every structure we see behind them is an old, ancient civilization that used to live there. Maybe it is the old ways of Outworld or Edenia. Or maybe in this timeline, Edenia took over Outworld, and what we see here is the remainders of Outworld. We see the red sandish bricks. Oh, I said red sandish. Reddish sand bricks throughout, the reddish pillars throughout, and the old structures that probably are new with the wood that they've built to kind of stabilize that area so they can get up and down stairs and without hurting themselves and having children that hurt themselves. But yeah, I'm willing to bet that this is, especially with this huge head statue here that's all broken up and stuff, it wasn't a Tarkat who just said, I feel like getting into art right now and making this head come out of the ground. This is an old statue that broke apart and fell down, and it shows a lot of history. I love this map. I'm sure an archaeologist will love this map as well. We see a lot of old vases laying around as well. I'm not sure if that's what the Tarkats are using just to get around, drink water, and things of that nature, or if they're just rebuilding this area. Because if you look through right above Baraka's head, you see another doorway, and through that doorway you see a structure that's kind of built on a mountain. That's probably kind of where the Tarkats are beginning to make their new civilization throughout these old ruins. We also see, and I'm saying that because the wood doesn't look decayed and old like the rest of these bricks and everything. It looks newer. Like this is something that they just made. When you look at this statue, when you look at this statue, you also see there's paint on the man's face. I believe this is new paint. And I say that because when we look at one of the tents and the shields, you see the same kind of tribal paint. It reminds me of more tribal civilizations, and I'm wondering if, because they feel like they're such, outcast, if they've begun to make fully their own tribe. And we kind of get that hinted at with Baraka's bio, that he will lead his people to kind of victory, if you will, or to he will keep his people's memories going. They won't be lost while they have Baraka. Something of that nature. I'm botching it all up. But yeah, I believe the paint is new. Kind of them marking their territory. And it's really cool to look at like the top head. We see beautiful gems cutting across. You know what? That's probably King Jared. We don't know how long ago King Jared died. We know Melina used to work for Namgadi, and then she left, and then she became essentially a police chief. That means it wasn't just a year or two ago. No one leaves and then goes and becomes a police chief overnight. I'm sure there was a lot of hard work she did. She's made her own life. She's probably been away for a while. And let's just say it could have been easily 20 years. It could have been 20 years ago she was Umgadi. And because Lee May looks a little on the older side, like she's 40 or something. 20 years ago she was Umgadi, when she was around to, and now she's 40 and she's a police chief. And everything about King Jared has been kind of just thrown to the wayside. Maybe Sindel, instead of honoring her husband's memory, maybe she didn't want nothing to do with him. Maybe he was an a-hole. She was ready to get away from him. Or possibly Cinderella's evil again in this timeline, and she set her husband up for failure and killed him, yada yada. We don't know. But this is definitely evident of someone who has been a part of an ancient civilization. And now people have forgotten about that because they did not preserve the statues, even though they still live there. Whether it was the old lands whoever owned them first before the new lands conquered them, or an old king who's been forgotten about and thrown to the side. As you can see, that's why I love this stage so much. There's just so much history here. Then we see the what looks like dream catchers and nice tents with skulls at the top of them of animals they've probably killed and used to make weapons, to make thicker hives, or use their not hives, their hides to, you know, make thicker tents to keep warm during appropriate weathers and things like that, or to keep dry if it's raining. You see markings all over the walls. I think again to symbolize, you know, whose territory is who. Well, this over here, this isn't just another Tarkat. This is, you know, Baraka's home right here with the 3 diamonds above his tent. Again, through this doorway, you see structures in the background made of wood. So they're really trying to create their own land. They say, we're not just going to be the suppressed people thrown to the side. We're going to do what we got to do to become mighty once again. And people going to have respect for us. And that might be from the hands of Baraka, who used to just be a merchant. But now he's like, no, we're going to rise up and we're going to be something great. You know, if they plan on having a revolution, they can't do that while just living in the slums and living like a rat or a dog. They have to keep their humanity, even past their disease, even past their situations. They have to keep their humanity, so they have to be able to build higher and better with the situations that they're given. Now, we get back to the same place I told you before with Melina and Kenshi, that kind of doctor's office, if you will. And we see there's books everywhere. There's candles. This person needs a lot of lights. It's kind of torn apart if you look at the brickwork right above Baraka's head. So maybe whoever was working here has been here for a while, or it's been passed down through their family, and they just haven't had the money to keep up with it, but it works for them. So it's kind of an old, dingy, dungeon-looking area that does the job. Maybe it's, you know, not the main royal family doctor, but the doctor that's on the low. Maybe it is Shang Tsung, and this is his like little low-key spot where he kind of hides all tucked away from the rest of the world, where he can do whatever he wants with no issues. We see this skeleton bird that's above this desk where he does his readings. He or she does his readings. We see what looks like a planetary system kind of above the chair, to the left of the chair. And that's interesting. So whoever does this also doesn't just study medicine, but probably studies everything from different societies to astronomy and astrology and any other types of magics out there, just the whole shebang, as well as, of course, again, medicines, biology with the bones. I don't think the bones are there to scare or intimidate someone. I think it's to add to his or her collection as they're studying and doing all the research that they want to. There's some red garment draped across the chair. Probably whoever this belongs to is their main garment, so we might see them in the story later. But yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe this is Quan Chi's new area. Maybe Quan Chi, you know, he used to be the master sorceress in the previous games. Maybe in this one he doesn't belong to NetherRealm. He is, say, sorcerer, a witch doctor, if you will. And this is his area, his lair. Would not be surprised. Here's another glimpse of this huge bird. Some Mortal Kombat-esque bird. Would love to see it with us full skin on. You know, if you look at Mortal Kombat 11, the Coliseum, where Kotal Khan is taken over, has some really cool animals that come out and some interesting details. So, you know, I love seeing made-up creatures or creatures from different fantasies and books and stuff that maybe are reminiscent of Earth creatures, but on a whole nother level. Mortal Kombat's monsters or animals definitely be on another level. Here we see again more in-depth with, if you look at this doorway to the left, you see another doorway, and then in the very back you see a library, a huge wall of books, of shelves with books all over them. This person reads, this person studies. He or she is very intelligent. You probably can't get nothing past them. The area is also, again, broken down in several areas, old brickwork and stonework. So it's been here for a while. Whoever lives here has either been here for a while or the place itself was here for a while and they just kind of bought it and took over it. And now we get that place again with Kenshi. We see the bed that Melina was laying on. We see they actually do have electricity here. They have lights to actually study people and look at their patients or their test subjects. We see a nice staircase to the left. That staircase that spirals up does kind of remind me of MKX's Quan Chi's lair. But again, that was in the nether realm. If you look at the far left, there's a little light coming out like there's a window. So this isn't a place underground. I think this is some sort of tower because it looks like there's a blue light piercing through a window at the top left above those stairs. We also see more drawings of a centaur. So, Mataro's race. If you look right above Tanya's flipped over body, you see this half horse, half man skeletal system. And I want to say it could have been Kenny or Dynasty. One of them, they had a video a while back where they broke down a lot of like centaur Easter eggs. I don't necessarily see them, but shout out to them. Go check the videos out for sure if you want more details on that. But I do see that one, that main drawing of a centaur. You can see the horns piercing out of his head, and you see the horse-like body with the human top half coming out. This person studies all biology. Studies all creatures and how they work, their ins, their outs, and probably studies the magics of each creature or creature from each realm. Makes me think for sure that this layer is somewhere within Outworld / Edenia, because in the original timeline, the Shokans, the Centaurs, they all came from Outworld. I wonder if they have any studies on Shokans. I would assume so. I would assume they have studies on every creature that's ever been known to the public. Here's a close-up view of that same bed again. The candles all lit. The sheet in the background, maybe where they block off if they have to do any surgery or go get their tools in the back room. And oh, excuse me. And then the huge overhead lights. Now, we'll cut back to the Lee May trailer where we see those same Edenian plants, beautiful plants to the left. We'll see the nice same stonework that we've seen throughout all the walk plays of the outside of the palace so far, as they're surrounded by Umgadi. And I believe this will be the same place that we fight, or we see the fight take place between Tanya and Lee May. That I believe is Sindel's garden. In this next area, this is towards the end of that same trailer where Lee May performs her firecracker fatality on Rain. Now, if you look at the background, there are war banners and piles of rubble. It doesn't look like the same snowy, fort that we saw earlier where the Lin Kuei were scaling up the walls and things like that. This looks like a different area. Now, with it being gray, maybe it is, but I didn't see a lot of the same background sets. I only see a few war banners, like the one right here next to Rain's shoulder, and a lot of piles of rubble. This makes me think that in the story, we're going to have this epic war that takes place. And this will be what's left of the war. Maybe it's a flashback as to the Lin Kuei during the era of Sub-Zero and Scorpion's father, before Sub-Zero's father died, the Grandmaster died. Or maybe this is, where we're going to see Kenshi and the great Takahashi's go to war. Or possibly a war at the end of this that leads into Onaga. Either way, we're going to see some forms of war building just with the, General Shao wanting to take over the throne because he feels that this is the only way to protect Outworld. So this is going to be a cool map. Hopefully it's not just, hopefully this is truly a new map and it's not just one of the maps we've seen already and just a weird angle, but it does look like its own fresh map. And we see right here too, again, more flags and war banners on the ground. Little small fixtures and piles of rocks with lanterns on top like they're burial sites for warriors. I believe this is a great war battleground. And once more right here, here's a better focus on it all. Now, when you look at the Combat Pack 2 or Combat Pack 1 trailer, we have again this huge landscape with many mountains and beautiful grass and skyline. I believe again we're going to have some sort of conquest mode. I know that there's been a reveal or a showcase from overseas websites that have the back of the game. We don't get much from that, and from what it looks like with the little miniature person there in the walkway, I hope that's not it. That's not what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to truly exploring and walking around through this land. Maybe it's just a situation where you move your little person from here to this point, but then it zooms in and then you're walking around that whole area. That would be pretty cool. Maybe they truly want to show you the entirety of it, but it will be too much to literally have you go from A all the way through, like Ghost of Tsushima with everything they want to do, because at least with Ghost of Tsushima is one map. If they want to show each realm, that's a lot to put on one game. So maybe that's why it's like, okay, you go from this area, you move your little person to one of the little checkpoints, and then it zooms in and you have an area that you can actually walk around in. And that's how they'll be able to give us multiple realms in this game versus just one map, like they did with MK11's Crypt. Now, I know I said earlier that I believe that that area we saw outside was Shang Tsung's. This really looks like Shang Tsung's. This is clearly Liu Kang's. We see him here in several different situations. Right now, talking to Garrus, we also see him here when he's gathering his group that are going to fight with him, his champions. But we have the pillars with the green dragons wrapped around the pillars. I want to know why he takes so much why he has so much homage to Shang Tsung, if that's somebody he truly does not like, unless they built this world together, or he has some sort of deeper connection to him. Maybe it's just simply he respects the same things that Shang Tsung respected. The great dragons, maybe those are supposed to be the protectors or the elders, and that's why, because those do look like the same dragons that went into Liu Kang in MK9, and that Liu Kang also can summon out in his fatality in MK1. So maybe it's as simple as that, but I do find it very ironic that it's green dragons wrapped around a pole, and it's very reminiscent to Shang Tsung's throne room with the green dragons wrapped around those poles, or in the older games, the green dragons that had on the left and the right side of his throne. I feel like there's something more there. We're going to see. Here's another glimpse of that fortress. I'm not sure, this does look slightly different than the first map that we saw with Sub-Zero fighting there. Maybe it's two different areas, or maybe this is just one big map. It looks like these maps are very long, so maybe this is just the other side of it. This is a screenshot that I grabbed real quick because in some of these gameplays, they only stay in one area. They don't really transverse to left and right fully, so it's hard to tell if these are two different maps. More than likely, it's the same map. But you do see the red cloth, like I pointed out inside that treasury, that I think was either General Shao or his father, or the Emperor himself, King Jared. It's red cloth and it's all burned and tethered. So, we've seen the red cloth when it was tied to General Shao or Shao Kahn himself in the old timelines. Maybe this would be of Jared. Now, Garrus, in this quick little scene that we have him in, he's in what looks like the Deadpool, or the future modern Deadpool. I think it's more of a torture chamber. It might be called the Deadpool, but I think this is the same place where we see Reptile go in the Banished trailer when he's freeing, right before he frees Sub-Zero. Not Sub-Zero. I believe it's Johnny Cage and somebody else, probably Kung Lao. And there's several different dead bodies hanging around there, tortured bodies everywhere. I believe this is going to be the same location. I wonder again who operates out of this. Is it Quan Chi? More than likely, this will be. I'm gonna guess that the doctor's place is Quan Chi, and that this is Shang Tsung's lair. This is where he does his true torment and torture on different people, and have you see the prison cells back here, have people locked up and force them to do their will. There was a leaked. I'm gonna say leaked. Somebody revealed on Twitter an alternate bio for Reptile, in which it says that his family is taken and held hostage by somebody. Maybe it's held in these catacombs. I don't know. We saw Reptile go through these catacombs. I'm calling them catacombs, but through this prison, if it's the same one, to free Johnny Cage. I would assume if his family there, he would just free them too, unless he's that afraid of whoever runs this place. We got another glimpse of the living forest again throughout the background, and now it really brings more layers to the living forest. These are living souls that exist within these trees, and throughout the background you get more depth to this forest, which I think is very unique, and there's not many games that's done that before. Right here where we see the people, Liu Kang and his crew entering through this portal, I think this is clearly Edenia. We see the purple and white and gold cloth drooping down to these same creatures, that these statues on the left and right, I forgot the names for them, but we also see Li Mei create a spirit version of them. So this was tied to the Umgadi, the palace, and Sindel's throne. Again, we see that red area that I was thinking maybe Shang Tsung's island or home, but this looks like a whole kind of civilization. So it's probably not Shang Tsung's island necessarily. Maybe he has his own group of people. I'm not sure. Or maybe this is the Lin Kuei's area. Like I said, it reminds me of the Shirai Ryu Fire Garden. Maybe they've kind of combined elements of the Shirai Ryu and the Lin Kuei. Since they've combined Scorpion and Sub-Zero as brothers in one family, maybe they've kind of combined other elements throughout. But this is a nice night view, but it makes me feel like the place is attacked. But it looks like these are purposely set fires, but it almost looks like the place is, under siege or under attack. Here we are again in Liu Kang's main area with his books kind of on the wall, his artifacts throughout. Him and Garrus are talking again. I wonder if these artifacts come from different timelines or if they come from just him watching his Earth grow. If you look on the right side of Garrus by his shoulder, that looks like the same statue that we saw the great Kung Lao making, that we also see Kung Jin steal in Mortal Kombat X. Oh, that would be so cool if that is. Just another little tidbit to tie it all off. Again, here we are in the... Well, no. So, at first I thought this was the fortress, the snowy fortress again. But this has to be a different place. Because we don't really see any fortress areas, just stonework. And if we look at this left side, there's stonework with writings throughout it. And not even really stonework. It looks like just large stones that they found and wrote different words and parables and passages on. Here's a better glimpse of it right here. It doesn't look like the fortress necessarily. It looks like the same snowy kind of landscape, but it looks like a completely different arena than the fighting. And here, like, this is the only shield that we see. You know, the other one we saw a bunch of war banners and weapons laying all over the place. This is the only shield that we see. And again, it's just surrounded by a bunch of stones with writings on them. I don't know if these are stones to, remember people who have fallen, or if these are sacred stones that belong to a temple or something of that nature, but it is really unique. Now, this stone we see on the right, that's Garrus. He just created that and threw somebody into a wall. But I mean these stones that are on the left with the chain wrapped around it and the shield in between. I can't wait to see who these belong to and what it all means. Now, we also get to Reptile's torture. Now, I'm saying reptiles, but this was just where we see Reptile walk through. I doubt this is his location, or he's a pretty screwed up individual. But some torture chamber. We see a bunch of bodies all skinned and jacked up and cut up, and people hanging on it looks like a wooden kind of table. I'm sure it lays down like the Frankenstein table. Speaking of Frankenstein, we see the lights towards the type, or the electricity towards the type. Somebody's conducting some sort of experiment or electrocuting people and shocking them. These prison cells look electrocuted because at the top of them they have the little electric setups above. I don't know the names of them, which is a little embarrassing, yes. But if you look at the left prison cell, the small little you could fit someone standing up prison cell, there's these little electric orbs at the top that look like they probably electrocute this whole thing to keep anyone from opening or grabbing the bars and getting out, or just frying them against their will while they have to stay there and take it. Now, we also see another prison cell. This is the prison cell where we see Johnny Cage, and it almost looks like Baraka back there as well. I'm pretty sure that is Baraka. And then, like I said, also, I believe Kung Lao. This is where we're going to see Reptile walk up to them, talk to them, and then free them before he reveals himself. And there's blood all over the walls and pillars. We see right here, there's blood all over the floor. Whoever tortures here is sloppy. They love to torture. They don't give a damn about the smell. They don't give a dang about, the body parts laying all over the place, if they get caught or not. This has to be in some sort of dungeon-like area. This has to be, a catacomb-esque type of location where no one is going to see, or even if someone does, they're not going to say a word to you. There's chains hanging everywhere, meat hooks. This is what I believe is going to be the quote-unquote Deadpool of this game. because we see bodies hanging from the roof, this far left side, hanging in the middle of the air, suspended. We see a fresh prisoner that's strapped against that table again right there. This is a screwed up area. This is where people go to practice their fatalities. Here we are again with Reptile and Katana. This is shortly after Reptile says, "You misunderstand what I'm trying to do here, princess," or however he words it. And this is again that celebration. Now, we see in the trailer something falls down and catches a fire. And I believe that's when the attack is starting. And we see a huge fire in the background. And that could just be from fireworks gone wrong. But I want to bet someone is attacking the place, trying to get to the princesses. Here, this portal opens up and we see, Liu Kang's gang running through. But also, I want to point out that two things here. A, this is the same location as earlier with the dragons everywhere wrapped around the pillars and the fire and bonfires, if you will, in different locations that I originally said reminds me of Shang Tsung's island. But we have two different portals in this game. Because if you look at the portal where Johnny Cage is taking pictures and everyone keeps pointing out the new character in the background, that one's a blue portal. And this one is a red fiery portal. This is also the same type of portal that we see in the Garrus trailer. Liu Kang is creating with his hands, right as Garrus is saying, your perfect timeline might already be compromised. This is also the portal that we see, or the same type of portal we see in the original CGI trailer that Shang Tsung comes out of. Did Liu Kang make that portal and bring Shang Tsung out? Is there a good Shang Tsung and a bad Shang Tsung? Or did he once trust Shang Tsung before he betrays him? Say Shang Tsung 10 times fast. I just want to point that out. I don't know what that means, but there's two different types of portals throughout this game so far that we've seen. The one that was at Adenia or Outworld, and then the one that Liu Kang seems to keep making or being a part of that we originally thought was Shang Tsung's portals. Now, when we see Ashra, this looks like the living forest has been completely corrupted. This looks like the living forest because we see the faces on the trees, except for now they're skeletons. And they look miserable, like their faces look like they were miserable right before they died. I believe Quan Chi or Shang Tsung or someone of soul powers, maybe it was Onaga himself. Also keep in mind that in this scene with Ashra, there's a green skull that flies to her before she cuts it down, Quan Chi. I believe whoever did this took all the souls out of the trees and left them corrupt and half dead. There's also some trees where there's more green souls piercing through and green fire everywhere. So maybe they corrupted them truly, created like a released demon souls within these trees, truly messed them up. Some trees don't have any light in them, which makes me think they just had their souls taken out. But this is like a dream place for a person like Ermac. Maybe that's how Ermac is created in this timeline. We know Ermac is going to be in the game. He's DLC. Maybe whoever takes all the souls out of all these trees, and then they create the being of Ermac, who's made of many souls. This map is really cool. This might actually replace what I said was my favorite map at first, and this would be my new favorite map because the corrupted trees look pretty sick. And we see that this is indeed a stage. We see it right here while Havoc and Ashra are fighting. And in the background, the trees almost look like they got meat left on their bones. Some towards the bottom of the skeleton, we see like the black, like it was almost bones, and at the top is like bloody almost, with the red. Obviously, it's the tree bark, but that's such a sick design. And it's a different, at first when I saw this, I was like, oh, this is the living forest, but maybe you can change it from day, morning to corrupted. But no, this is completely different because the depth here is not more and more trees and forests. It's you see like old buildings that are in ruin in the background and things of that nature. So I think this is a part of the living forest that's just been corrupted. Or being that they did showcase Havoc in here, which I do think is just kind of a distraction to throw you off. But, just biting the bait for a second, it could be a part of Havoc's chaos. He is creating chaos through this forest. Who knows? And here's another gruesome look. Like these poor tree people, they suffered before this happened to them. They look like their faces just kind of melted off. Again, there's green fire everywhere, burning everything. green fire in their eyes instead of just this slight green aura that was piercing through their eyes earlier. Now we get to the brand new stage revealed. This was to showcase the new skins that are gonna, I think, the Day of the Dead skin for Sub-Zero. And this background looks pretty cool because again it looks like an old area that was forgotten about. You see that there's huge skeleton heads in the background that are falling. They almost remind me of statues, but why would someone create huge statues of just skeleton heads? Unless these are giants who died and these are their remains. I'm not sure. I will say the background reminds me of like Aztec kind of architect, or Mayan architect, which I think will be befitting if they're showing off a Cinco de Mayo, or not Cinco de Mayo, a Day of the Dead skin for Sub-Zero. I think it'll be pretty befitting. The closest thing we have to the Mayans and the Aztecs in Mortal Kombat is the Aztecs, Kotal Khan. So maybe this is a small little glimpse as to the Aztecs. Maybe they're ancient people in this race. I mean, this timeline. And maybe Kotal Khan will be like one of the last living survivors of his people. Or they're just a small tribal kind of people who are off to the side, minding their own business. Because this place looks kind of rich. Like it looks like it's an old temple. Yes, it's all broken apart and stuff. But you got water flowing through it all. Like right next to Sub-Zero's hand here. And on the other side, you have plant life everywhere, vegetation. And it looks like a little fire is within this kind of temple area, or this little door, like someone's been in there, still going there worshiping or praying or whatever. So this is going to be a pretty cool stage. I really want to see this stage. I want to play on this stage, and there's nobody here, so it's a quiet stage. That's going to be pretty cool. I wonder if you'll hear things in the background of the stage, like just water running down. That would be really relaxing. But this is definitely one of the prettier stages, like Sindel's Garden. Well, that is everything. Thank you all so much for visiting this. More than likely I split this up into 2 videos because this running at an hour long. But I wanted to break down all of the stages we've seen throughout Mortal Kombat so far. So, I don't know how many more stages we have left. Hopefully we have many more coming to us, but even if we have 1 or 2 coming to us, we've definitely got a handful here. It's been really cool to see all this unfold, to see all the new details and depth that they added to these stages, all the tidbits again that we was able to find that give us more ideas as to the deeper lore. And yeah, actually while I'm talking about this, yeah, that for sure looks like huge heads that are decaying. I don't think anyone made a statue because they're not just straight skeletons. They still have some meat on them and teeth. Ugh. Yeah, those are some giants. There's giants in Mortal Kombat now. Anyway, come to my channel once again. Worlds Within Worlds. Love having y'all through here. Continue to support and comment on how I can be better, what you all want to see, what you want me to break down. And I will see you all soon. Thank you very much, and God bless.